Welcome back to the Product-Led Festival. Stay seated because there's another exciting presentation about to start. Before we kick off the next batch of kick-ass content, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for helping us bring this awesome event to your screens. And don't forget, you can access even more incredible content, from exclusive articles and interviews to all past and future events on demand, as well as templates and frameworks by becoming a PLA member. Head over to productledalliance.com for more info. Enjoy the next presentation. Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Kevin Sakamoto, who is the Director of Digital Product Operations at Dollar Shave Club. And Kevin is going to talk to us today about the role of organizational culture in product. So welcome, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's a great pleasure to be here. So thank you everyone for attending my session, the role of organizational culture in product. Again, I'm Kevin Sakamoto, currently the Director of Digital Product Operations at Dollar Shave Club. Prior to that, I've had a lot of e-commerce experience in product management and leadership roles. And you may be wondering, rightfully so, what does an e-commerce product manager know about organizational culture? Like, I'm no anthropologist, I'm no cultural anthropologist, but I was, born and raised in Hawaii. And when you grow up in Hawaii, it's oftentimes known as sort of the melting pot. There's so many different diverse cultures there. And when you grow up surrounded by this level of diversity, you can't help but develop a sense of, cultural awareness. Language, customs, music, and certainly the cuisine all sort of, benefited from the melting pot and the culture that is Hawaii. Now, I began my product management journey, more than a decade ago in Paradise, and the discipline has, certainly changed since then. Right? You look at product today, and there are just a wide number of resources that are available. There's a treasure trove of resources available, right, for aspiring and veteran product operators alike. You have a library of books. You have, active Clubhouse rooms, which are honestly very addicting. I encourage you to join some Clubhouse rooms. I'm part of one every Sunday as well. You have engaging podcasts, and you have, treasured organizations like the Product-Led Alliance. And I say all of this, because product managers today have so many more resources, and they are undoubtedly stronger, faster, smarter, than I ever was. But while all of these resources are available, there's something to be said about honing your sense of cultural awareness to understand where you are in the company and what the culture of the company stands for. And one company renowned for culture is, of course, Zappos. The late Tony Hsieh would always say that Zappos is a customer service company that just so happens to sell shoes. And when I joined them in 2011, it was so true. Like, the customer service was a non-negotiable at Zappos. It was, at the core of who we are and rooted in everything we did. It was our first core value: deliver well through service. Now, we all had our favorite core values. Mine's were and continue to be number 2, embrace and drive change, and number 10, be humble. But deliver well through service was, on the top of everyone's list. And every new employee, regardless of, what part of the company you're in, from the customer service team all the way up to the executives, every new employee had to go through a 4-week customer service training program. Right? And titles didn't matter at all. Your cohort was there to learn the Zappos way of delivering well through service. And at the end of the training program, all of us went to the floor and we answered calls for a few days. And we were there to engage with the customer, to learn, and to provide that level of outstanding service. But this wasn't our only time to be able to wow our customers. We had the Holiday Helper program. So every holiday season, we all work a total of 10 hours on the floor. And it was a really festive time of year. Lots of hot chocolate, lots of snacks, not good for your waistline, but still, it was really fun. And it was very engaging, even though it was a little stressful, right? Because you saw the calls piling up. There was never a concern about sales. There was never a concern about revenue. All we had to do was make sure that we wowed the customer through service, and that, we were there to make the connection and to make sure she got what she needed. We had our 2-hour shifts. So every time, one of the engineering or product managers would come back from the 2-hour shift, you would rarely hear any sort of complaints. More often than not, you would hear stories about a particular customer problem, followed by, if we only designed XYZ, service or feature, we could solve this particular problem. So Jira stories were written and prototypes were made. Everyone within product and engineering, we were compelled to level up that customer service experience. We were customer obsessed, and so much of what we did internally, was rooted in that. We had employee recognition programs. We listened to our customers, and they said they recognize, identify with certain models on their site because of their dimensions and their height. So we built model profile pages. We iterated and iterated on the size charts. We had reviews, that were very robust, and we had wait lists where customers could enter their email address and be notified when a particular item was back in stock. Right? Now, traditional e-commerce metrics mattered, right? Still, like average order value, add to cart, step conversions, all of that stuff still mattered to our product team. But the difference was that we operated sort of with this customer service lens. So I mentioned, email addresses for waitlist. So let's talk about email as an example. Right? Like any business, we want to try and grow the email subscription base. So, we decided to test the different ways to increase that email capture. We had email capture at the very top of the website in the global navigation. We tested one right underneath the homepage hero, and then we tested one yet again at the footer. And all the variants performed well enough. But then we asked ourselves, which does more to elevate the level of customer service? Is it our email address, or is it the 24/7 number? And the answer was obvious. It was the 24/7 number. So at the time, we decided to leave the email address at the footer, and we leave the customer service number up at the top. And that intention is actually still there today. So if you go to Zappos.com, you'll see that intention is still expressed. So from my time at Zappos, I sort of started wondering, does the intention behind your product align with that of the organization? Again, email versus telephone number. Which version aligns to what it is you want to do? When I left Target when I left Zappos to join Target, the email address capture was one of the early asks for me. So I joined Target, and they say, can you help us sort of increase the email address database? So my initial approach was technically sound, right? I had nice requirements, I had nice and tidy Jira tickets, and I had wireframes that flowed and made sense. But my approach wasn't quite right. It didn't sit so well, with my stakeholders, and I was a little baffled by this, right? Because this is something I just did, at Zappos, and it's not a technically hard ask. And what I realized was that the culture was different. You see, at Target, there was no 1 month, customer service training program. There were no core values for us to recite, to memorize, to identify with, right? And there was certainly no holiday helper program. We weren't going to go work the floors during Black Friday and help out customers. But there was, however, a very, very deep love of the brand, both internally, and externally. Pre-pandemic, a trip to Target was an experience. You would go to the Starbucks inside of Target, grab your favorite drink, snag one of those carts with the little cup holders, and then start racking up those steps as you would walk up and down the aisles endlessly, just looking at things, right? Customers were obsessed with the brand. They loved Target. And when you have that level of obsession, right, the memes follow. There are no shortage of memes on the internet with regards to Target. And it was interesting in that sense, right? Where because we sold consumer goods, you could find it other places, but people just loved, going to Target. And sort of that brand love ran counter to my very functional approach for the email capture product, right? It was technically sound. But even though it was a digital product, it still needed to have a little bit of that brand essence. It still needed to be wrapped in that brand love. And that point of being wrapped in brand love is perfectly captured here with Bullseye, Target's mascot. Bullseye dresses for the occasion, right? Depending on whatever the situation is, from fully decked out to wearing booties because it's cold, or to a nice, fashionable collar. So, my team and I, we took that approach as well. So we said, there are different scenarios for email capture, especially for a retailer like Target. So let's develop two different versions of the capture product. And then let's also wrap it in different levels of brand love. Right? So each had its own degree of brand essence. There was a balance between functionality and style. And that sort of led me to ask myself, if your products have to transcend functional excellence to include a sense of style, do I, as a product manager, need to do so as well? And this isn't to say that I'm going to change the way I look when I would go to the office at Target, but rather change the approach of how I develop my products to include that sense of style. So again, balance between functionality and style. Now, one company that certainly understands the balance of all things, including functionality and style, is Lululemon. And this was my next stop in my journey. And all of my products at Target, were wrapped in that Target essence and that Target brand. But customers and employees alike at Lululemon were literally wrapped head to toe in Lululemon gear. And coming to work in workout apparel was not only welcomed, but almost expected. And we had the mantra "Sweat Daily" sort of adorning, the walls. And we had a yoga studio downstairs where, they would hold classes, free classes for employees to partake in, at any time of day. And I'll admit this lifestyle was one that I wasn't quite accustomed to, but, it's Apple core value, embrace and drive change, right? So I gladly participated in that. But I, again, looked at it from a very functional perspective. The style that I talked about at Target, was contained within my role as a product manager. I did Sweat Daily. I wake up and early and I go for 5K runs, and I thought, okay, I sweat, check. I can wear my business casual attire and go to work and be very functional about that. But sweating daily also implied you sort of sweat with your coworkers and your teammates. So I did what any good, product manager and product leader would do. I decided to A/B test myself in order to maximize efficiency. So I just said, let's start holding one-on-one sessions over 5Ks. So I'll take my team and we'll go running, through Vancouver on a 5K early in the morning, so I could get some one-on-ones done, so I could check 2 boxes at once. Needless to say, it didn't work out very well. It wasn't very well received. So a new balance was necessary. Whereas at Target, balancing sort of functional excellence with brand love was sufficient, Lululemon required a third element, and that was sort of respect of the lifestyle. So enter our friend, the email capture product. So I was asked again to sort of develop a mechanism to capture email addresses on Lululemon.com. And I thought this time it's going to be different, right? I've learned from some Zappos and I've learned from Target, and I would alter the vector of my approach to gain sort of a broader view of the terrain. And so, for example, what I mean by that is one of the versions that I spoke of for Target for the email product sort of covered the homepage hero a little bit. And we could do that because, again, it was sort of wrapped in that brand essence. That definitely wouldn't work at Lululemon. The homepage hero, you just couldn't touch that. So we couldn't, take that particular approach. The product needed to do more than simply function. It needed to be more than just stylish and fit within the confines of the website. The product sort of needed to harmonize with the customer journey at the moment. And so take, for example, maybe there was a customer who was brand new to yoga and he would come to Lululemon and he would want to understand why Lululemon gear was so amazing. So he'd be just there to research and to discover. Or you have another customer and she's a yoga practitioner and she's going on yoga retreat. So she's going to Lululemon. She knows what she wants. She wants high performing gear, and she's going to go and search and buy for that particular item. So flashing an email module would be a little disruptive. So having a sense of the customer journey and being aware of her journey and her moment in time worked. There were no issues with the design, development, or execution of this particular product. This sense was put to the test, however, when we were asked to, when Lululemon decided to launch the buy online, pick up in store service. Right now, when that announcement was made, we of course started digging through the numbers, and we started looking through the average order size and the units per transaction and all of those things. And I realized that the buy online pick up in store at Lululemon modeled differently than that of Target. Like at a mass market retailer, like Target, buy online pick up in store is an opportunity to increase the average order value. You want to increase the basket size, right? You want to increase the units per transaction. But when a pair of yoga pants at Lululemon costs around $100, you can sort of imagine what the unit per transaction numbers are. And while we had a strong online presence, at Lululemon, our stores remained an essential part of the customer journey. The stores were where the magic happened, right? So, for example, at the stores, they would hold, free run clubs and free yoga classes, on an almost daily basis. And you would hear a lot of stories of how customers would go to the store and participate in these with the hopes of one day, becoming a Lululemon employee. And a lot of times that happened. So realizing that the store was part of the journey, right? We sort of pivoted our strategy. We decided to say that if a customer were to evoke a buy online pickup in store action, regardless of the price of the product, whether it's $20 or $120, we would do everything we can to make sure that she got to the store. There were no upsells, there was no product recommendations, none of that stuff. The website was just a conduit to her lifestyle. Customers were obsessed, with the lifestyle, with what yoga had to offer. The magic happens at the store. So that particular discovery point was understanding, the broader customer journey. Is that important? And in this case, it was. Right? It allowed us to pivot our strategy so that we could fulfill that experience. Now, there's nothing magical about grooming, but it is a lifestyle choice. And here at Dollar Shave Club, we spend our days helping you sort of look, feel, and smell your best. And there is a level of all of my past lives here at Dollar Shave Club, right? We have a level of functional excellence because we need to make sure that for our subscribers, we get their products, we get their razors, to them on a timely and reliable basis. There is a solid focus on the customer. My team and I, we do engage in monthly chat immersions to understand the customer journey, to understand the customer pain points, very much like Zappos. And there is a level of brand love. Right? Our initial commercial, our very first commercial, has been viewed so far more than 27 million times. And while my role as digital product operations, has taken me away from product management, I still am part of the product team, and I'm asked to put on my product hat from time to time and help out with strategy. And yes, an email capture module was asked, and I've been asked to sort of prioritize the development of this particular feature. But we'll save that story for another time. So until then, I hope I was successful in illustrating, to all of you that product is more than just analytics, MVPs, and UX. Your culture environment has a direct influence on the shape of your product, right? And you have to make sure that it's aligned with what it is you're trying to do. You want to analyze your compatibility, with the culture. Find the APIs necessary for you to succeed. Find those that understand the importance of brand essence and brand love. And your products are not the only thing that needs to be iterated on, right? You have to understand the whole journey in order to iterate on your approach and your strategy. And as a leader, you want to iterate on yourself as well, right? So if any of you out there have successfully held, one-on-ones over 5Ks, please let me know, because I would love to know how you solve that particular problem. So mahalo nui loa. Thank you everyone for your time and welcoming me into your screen. I hope you enjoyed your session.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for that wonderful presentation. Some great examples of different kind of organisations there. And personally, I would absolutely love to do a 5K one-on-one with my manager. But that's just me. If people have questions, please throw them into the chat. We've got a few minutes now. We've got one from Raul. Can product culture overcome a toxic organisational culture?
That's a great question. I would want to say yes, because the advantage that product has, right, is we can, and again, I'm speaking from my experience in e-commerce, right? We can develop something, we can put it out quickly as an A/B test. You can see the fruits of your labor. You can see the results right away, and sort of you can lead by example, by saying, look, we did this thing, we did it on our own. Look at the results. It won't happen overnight. Nothing really ever does, but I definitely think it can.
Nice. Nadia would like to know or asks, can you give another example of a physical or in-person aspect of your digital product experience?
Oh, so this is actually maybe a longer story, but if you were to Google hashtag Target Style, so hashtag Target Style, all one word, you'll be taken to Target Finds website. And that's the social commerce platform that my team and I designed. And the reason for that, I direct you to that, is because it relied upon everyone sort of pulling in, posting, hashtag Target Style photos on Instagram. And what I found, like any good product manager, right, you look through the data, and I found that there was a high concentration in certain markets where there's a lot of activity. So keeping your ear close to the ground, as you should as well, for a product team. At the time, I knew that Target was testing out a new concept, a new physical store concept in 25 stores in the California and the LA market. So I worked with one of those stores, and I decided to create decals and put them on the mirrors, on both on the floor and in the dressing rooms. And it would say, show us your style, hashtag Target Style. And just by spending this very small amount and putting those decals, on the mirrors, I did find that there was not necessarily a dramatic increase, because there was a small environment, a small number of stores, but we did see some movement in terms of the number of posts or number of hashtag Target Style posts that were made, and the increased time spent on a particular site within that particular market. So you can get creative. You can spend just a small amount of money, to test different things to increase that engagement from a physical and digital side.
Nice. Got one here from Jania. Great session, Kevin. What have you found from your various experiences across product organizations around creating a strong collaborative culture among product managers, engineers, and designers?
Yeah, it really depends, again, on the culture. So for example, at Zappos, it was we had sort of these hackathons, and where we could sort of build anything we wanted to, and you sort of want to embrace that spirit, right? We built things like we built something called a Taco Bot, where it was a chair with on top of it, so you can go and get tacos, because being very creative and being very explorative, then do that, embrace that, run with it, make time within your day to allow for that level of activity. So again, align yourself with the culture and make the time necessary.
Great. And we've got another one here from Chris. From your experience, who should be involved in building the organizational culture for a product? All staff, product, or certain teams or stakeholders?
Honestly, I never really thought about that, because especially at a place like Zappos, where customer service is sort of required, right? It has to be within everyone. So we would interview for service, your ability to provide amazing level of service. So that's on one side, where you sort of hire for that. At Lululemon, it was a little bit different, right? You had to sort of enjoy working out. And for me, while I enjoyed working out and running, I didn't necessarily enjoy doing yoga with other people because I'm horrible at yoga, right? So again, I think it depends on the culture, right? If you're bound together on customer service, then you hire for it up front so that it's everyone. If you're bound together by an activity or a lifestyle, again, it is everyone, but there it's a little different. You want to make sure that you can flex, and to be flexible, no pun intended, I guess, like at the lemon. There are people like me that don't necessarily like yoga, but we like running. So, how do you accommodate, for those different degrees of interest?
Awesome. And I think that is all of the questions. I'm going to ask you one more just to give people a minute or so if they want to throw any last questions into the chat. But Kevin, if you could go back to the start of your product career and give younger Kevin one piece of advice, what would it be? Just one.
Oh my gosh. No, just sort of just go with the flow a little bit, right? When I started at Zappos, I sort of had my way, of doing things, and it some of my own sort of norms and behavior sort of helped me back, right? Because I thought that okay, it worked for me previously, it's going to work for me now, right? So the moment you jump into a new organization, sort of just let it go and just let all the data, come in. And then once you feel that you've received a sufficient amount of data, give yourself the space for that, whether it's 60 days or 90 days. Then you start to sort of redefine who you are and how you operate in that space.
Nice. And Kevin, I'm afraid you're not quite off the hook. We've had one more question come in. Can you talk a bit more about how organizational culture plays a role or not in outbound product management?
I'm not sure what outbound product management is.
Neither am I. So, well, now, and if you could elaborate a little bit more, I'm going to go to Vanessa's question. Hopefully we can understand this one. How do you think the pandemic has impacted internal culture for companies, and how should product pivot to support the brave new world?
Wow, that's another great question. So at Dollar Shave Club too, the culture is strong. It's just like Zappos. So we try to do things to account for that sort of distributed work environment. We have a tacos Slack channel where we're able to give tacos, emoji tacos to other employees as a recognition. Our leadership makes sure that every month when we have our all hands, we recognize the individual that gave the most tacos and that received the most tacos. Right. We try to do things like game night to make sure that we can play some virtual games remotely. I've also heard stories, again, via Clubhouse, right, of other teams sort of having Among Us, which is a popular game among kids. They would have Among Us breaks and that sort of thing. Really more along the lines of team building and giving your team sort of that space to just take a break, virtually. And because we can't meet, obviously, but if you could share in that experience, whether it's via a video game or even we did like movie nights, at Dollar Shave Club during the holiday season. Anything you can do to have that bond together does help.
Nice. So Nauman has, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, has kind of elaborated a bit, saying outbound PM equals focused more on customer, industry, market, less on engineering, development, tech. So maybe product marketing is what Chris Flynn said. So
yeah. So I definitely think, and so with my roles mostly, right, it's been internal, and e-commerce. We really didn't have to work too much, with product marketing because of our products and services, were really to the website. What I will say though is, from the application development side, so my counterpart at Lululemon, he was the director of apps. He would have to work to go to the stores, right, and to make sure that we have the decals up, to make sure that we could educate the store employees and the managers on the importance of the app and why the app is important, to the company, as a whole, because it was brand new. So I would imagine that just taking that small data point, that's going to be true for more sales and marketing outbound organizations, where you do need to work with the teams to make sure that they understand not so much the functional, excellence, but understand why it's important for the business.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin. And I think that is it for questions. So thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. It was a really great presentation. I think everyone's learned a lot. Huge thank you to you, and thank you to everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
And if you'd like to connect with Kevin, his LinkedIn is at the top of the chat, so please do reach out.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.